Bear on, Bears fans. According to The Athletic, there may be a ton of competition at a spot that we thought was locked up on this offensive line. Got to talk about all that and more on today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel to talk Chicago sports, how Chicago talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us. So, per Adam Johns of The Athletic, in an article that we referenced when we were talking about projecting the 53-man roster, as you start to read through it, they've got breakdowns of each of the players and position groups that they believe are at the 53-man roster. And this was a very interesting excerpt that I thought really speaks to a lot of the questions that Bears fans have right now on the right guard position. John says that offensive line coach Chris Morgan said center is an open competition between Bates and Shelton, but my gut feeling is that there will also be a competition at right guard in training camp. The Bears will tell you that they're searching for their best 5 linemen. That could be Coleman Shelton at center and Bates at right guard over Davis, but the most compelling storyline could be if Amagaji is healthy and ready to compete to play. And this is something that, to me, now we did hear from Ryan Poles that Karan Amagaji is not expected to be a part of the starting lineup right now. He's not expected to be competing for a starting position in his first season, whether healthy or not. We heard that from Ryan Poles right after the draft. But when that's kind of what he said about Braxton Jones, right? Like that conversation was there about Braxton Jones as a 5th round guy who was coming in. He wasn't expected to be the starting left tackle. It escapes me the name of the guy that we signed that year. I know Leatherwood was involved in all of that as well, but that was traded for later. But it escapes me who we signed to be our starting left tackle. But he was so god awful that all of a sudden it was like, Braxton, you're the answer, my guy. So you never know what's going to happen when you get to camp. I think that's something to keep an eye on with Karan as well. But realistically speaking, that right guard position is the one that we're really focused in on because of everything that surrounded the storyline of Nate Davis. Now, again, I've said this multiple times. Last year, very different circumstances. I'm not holding that against him. But this year is a very different year. And if we're skipping last year, that means we're going to the year before where a team was willing to get rid of you following that year because of issues with you wanting to be out at practice, right? Excuse me, right? Issues with you wanting to be on the field, issues with you being committed to being on the practice field, but wanting to show up on Sunday and be the starting right guard. A team was willing to move on from you, that team being the Tennessee Titans. The Bears swoop in and pick you up. Here we go. Are we doing this again? That's the question that's in a lot of Bears fans' minds. And right now, right, when you hear Adam Johns talking about as they go through training camp with a competition that Coleman Shelton could be the best option at center. Here's 2 things on this. One, Coleman Shelton could be the best option at center because Coleman Shelton's a center. I understand that there's a want for Ryan Bates to be the starting center. I understand that there's a belief that Ryan Bates is the starting center, but Ryan Bates has not played center. He's got 150 snaps, not in his whole NFL career, in college and NFL. He played no snaps of center in college. He played 150 snaps in the pros. No. Right? He's not a center yet. Now, can we experiment with it? Can we see him out there? Can he do the job? Those are things that you can figure out through training camp and as you head through the season. But it doesn't mean that he's a guarantee to be the starting center for this team. And I think that's why I really do look at the competition there between him and Coleman Shelton and say there's a shot for Coleman Shelton, right? There's a shot for Coleman Shelton to be your starting center as you head into the season. But at a minimum, it does feel like you have a couple of guys that can play that, fine there. The part that becomes tough is if Nate Davis becomes your backup and you have to go with Ryan Bates as your starting right guard, that now puts you in a little bit of a depth issue at the center position. Now, Matt Pryor also, I believe, has some center experience as well, but still not what you're looking for, right? If you told me coming into the season we were going Coleman Shelton starting center, Matt Pryor backup center, that is not what I would be looking for. In fact, I have the ESPN depth chart up right now and how they have it set out. I mean, Matt Pryor is not even making that list as the backup center, right? They're going Coleman Shelton, Doug Kramer, Jerome Caravan, and then you've got Nate Davis, right guard. They've also got Jatir Carter, right guard, but I would think Ryan Bates has more experience at right guard there. So I would assume that he would be your backup right guard or your starting right guard, one way or the other. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. Do you feel like Nate Davis is going to have a shot at being the backup right guard this season? Because I do believe that that is a real scenario that the Chicago Bears are in right now. Type Y for yes and for no. I do believe that that's a real scenario that the Chicago Bears are in right now, where you have to know that you can count on a guy to be out there and that he has the reps with, yet again, a new starting center and a new right guard, right? Especially if you've got Ryan Bates out there. It's going to be a new guy for both sides of the ball for him, or both sides of the line for him, right? If he is the guy who goes in there at right guard. Now for Nate Davis, he did play next to Darnell Wright last season, but there wasn't a ton of practice next to Darnell Wright next season. And I think that inhibited a lot of the skill that Darnell Wright could have showed, even though he was dealing with some injury, right? I think that slowed down a lot of what you wanted to see from Darnell Wright last year, because when you saw a guy who was practicing next to him, was on the line with him, did understand kind of where he was at, Tevin Jenkins move over there, all of a sudden Darnell Wright and him are two of the best that you can see in the game of football on the right side, just absolutely demolishing people down the field. And I think, listen, you could be heading toward a scenario which is my dream scenario, where you see some legitimate offensive line changes that possibly are the ones that stick for the long term. My dream scenario right now for the center position and right guard and left guard and all of that, right? You see some good out of Kiran Amageji. If you see some good, throw him in there at left guard. You drafted him at left tackle, throw him in there at left guard, allow him to kind of figure that position out, because it seems like they're locked in with Braxton at left tackle, or some vice versa of that. My right side of the line, give me Darnell Wright, give me Braxton, or give me Tevin Jenkins. Would love to see that. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a little more depth on both sides of the ball. The reason I say that is because Nate Davis is a right guard, so he still can be your backup right guard. Ryan Bates is a backup center, backup right guard type of player, so he's somebody who can fit into both scenarios there. I know you traded draft capital for this guy. Why wouldn't you start him? Because I want to go with the best five, and I believe this is the best five. And if Ryan Bates is able to win the job over Coleman Shelton, or Coleman Shelton wins the job over Ryan Bates, I have sufficient depth on the offensive line at all positions and plenty of versatility for guys that can move around. My starting rotation, if I could, and listen, maybe Ryan Bates could play left guard as well. Maybe that's a great spot for him too. But I'd rather go with the young guy that's been on the left side instead of having Ryan have to flip his brain around, but it's not like it's something he can't do. But give me Coleman Shelton, give me Braxton Jones. I'll go Ryan Bates and or Kiran Amageji, but give me Kiran Amageji if we're going the young guy first, if he wins that job. Give me Darnell Wright, give me Tevin Jenkins. That's a solid five to me, and I think you have sufficient backups on that line as well that you can go out there and you can dominate with. Like, to me, I think that's the part for me where, yes, there's some question marks. Yes, there's some health questions on the line with the guys that you have out there, right? Maybe there's some health questions with Tevin Jenkins. We know that that's a case there. But if we're talking about a guy who's, when he's out there, he's going to be the best, that's Tevin Jenkins. I don't feel that way when I see Nate Davis on the field. Now, maybe this season is different. Maybe everything works out. Maybe it all ends up being kumbaya. But if I'm sitting there telling you the best five that I saw last season, Nate Davis wasn't a part of that. And I wonder if he'll be a part of it this season. That's the real question that you got to ask yourself. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. What would you like to see this offensive line lineup be? I gave you mine. Let me know yours in the comments below. And do you think that there is a real competition at right guard, as Adam Johns has said? Like, that would be massive, because you paid $10 million to a dude to come in here and compete. Like, no, $10 million, my boy, you're supposed to be the starter. You're supposed to be the answer that we're looking for at that position. You're not supposed to be coming in. Now, everybody's got to compete, right? But it's supposed to be one of those competitions where it's like, yeah, we're competing at right guard. Wink, wink, he's the starter. That was a terrible wink. I blinked. Wink, wink. He's the starter. You know what I mean? That's kind of how this is supposed to go. But we'll see what the Chicago Bears end up doing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Enjoy Juneteenth. If you see me out at the Cubs game, say what up. Peace.